Welcome back to the bench. Today we're going to start this Vanquish VS4-10 Phoenix straight axle version project. I bought this from Vanquish. Got a pretty good deal on it. I paid $3.59 for it. Got the steel gear set with it, and I got a discount for my first time I purchased from them. So yeah, not a bad deal. Comes with everything you need except for servos, motor, and the motor will be here tomorrow. The motor is going to be a sticker sheet. The motor is going to be a Fusion Pro. All right, let's see what we got. So if you guys haven't ever built a kit before, this is the way to do it. I know a lot of people buy ready-to-runs, but if you build your kit, you know your vehicle when you get done. And if something breaks or you have problems, you know how to fix it. And I suggest that you do a kit. If you're into this hobby and you really want to get into this hobby and learn something, then build something. I built 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, I built 4 kits. This will be my 5th one. And I've also designed 3 vehicles completely from the ground up. Not a kit, but all the parts to build them. If you look at my YouTube channel, you can go back and look at the different vehicles that I've built. Okay, so necessary for maintenance: needle nose pliers, side cutters. You don't need a whole lot of tools. Now I have lots of tools because I've been doing this for about 4 years. But all you really need is a needle nose pliers, side cutters, little wrench that they actually give you in their spare parts kit, some grease, and they usually give you that too. Grease and thread lock. That's all you really need. Okay. Now you can go out and buy other tools. I got this set of wrenches. You're going to need these to put it together. Okay. You need a basically a tool set with a different size of hex drivers for this. Okay. And Vanquish sells a set. They got them on Amazon. I got this one from Injora. Good set. It also fits into my electric bit or drill thing, which I don't suggest you use on all parts, but sometimes it comes in handy. This one, I've had this for maybe 15 years. I don't even know if you can buy this anymore, but it works really well for what I do. And it's got a clutch on it that can be adjusted so you don't strip out your screws. Works good. And I use that for when it's feasible, but you should probably not always use one because you can strip out these screws pretty easy. Remember, you're working on 10th scale stuff. All right, so let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is build the axles. So it needs, and as simple as finding bag A. It tells you here, bag A. So you open up bag A, and all the parts you need for this pages are pretty much in bag A. Okay, so we got all of our parts. Come on, parts trees, or there's the axle housing, and there's the thread lock and grease that they recommend. All your axles and gears, screws, everything's in a bag. Bushing, I'm not bushings, no bushings. They come, this one kit comes with bearings, okay? And all your gears to build, we're going to build the rear axle. That's what we're going to do today. All right, any questions? Of course not. If you have any, just put them in the comments below, but this is kind of going to be for those who have never built a kit before and want to see what it takes to build one. And I understand that Vanquish is one of the best kits to build because it's precision. But this is, it looks overwhelming, but it's not. I mean, you got to give it a try, especially if you want to do something in this field and you want to get good at it and be able to fix your own vehicle and upgrade your vehicle. This is the place to start. And I would start with a Vanquish or an axial kit because they're well described in the book on what you do, and they fit together, and it's not a difficult task. I mean, I'm damn near 70 years old. I got old arthritic fingers, and I can still do this. And just, you know, take your time. Don't rush it. It's going to take some time to build. This will take me a week, 2 weeks to put together. But that's the fun part of it, in my opinion. All right, so we'll start with the axle. The first thing we're going to do is put the gears together. So we're heading into this here bag full of gears and bearings. And on the bench, I have this brown towel sitting here, and I can lay stuff on it and it don't roll. I don't have to chase it on the floor, and I can see it. I mean, you can put different color if you're so inclined. Okay? Alright, so all the bearings, all that stuff laid out. And let's go. So the first thing we're going to do is build the axle. And it tells me to get this part here. And that is the main gear in the transfer case, or in the axle for the differential. So you just follow it. Start with number 1. You have this fitting, and then it says you need a specific bushing. Now, if on the instructions right here, it'll have a actual size of the bushing written, and then you can just lay the bushing on there. Bushing. Bearing, some of them come with bushings. This one comes with bearing. Lay the bearing on there and it'll tell you if it's the right bearing or not. And we lay that bearing on there, and that's the correct bearing. And it fits inside of this little piece right here. Just push it in, and there you go. Then we need the gear. Then we need bag A1. To get the rest of the parts for that. And that is this goes here. You say just look at the pictures, tells you what to do. Then you need another, here it is, and another bearing. And again, the bearing size is on there. Press the bearing in, and there we go. Okay, so that's the first thing that we need. Then we need the differential housing, because we're going to put all this inside this housing. Alrighty. So the first thing we do is orient the housing and place bearings inside the housing. There's one bearing goes on the outside here. Check the bearing size. This is this one. It goes in here. And bag 1A has the screws that I need. And I have this little magnetic tray that you can pick up on Amazon for little or nothing. Put my screws in, all the little tiny parts. And alright, so we got this, and this. We need this gear and another bearing for the inside of the differential housing. And we got to figure out which bearing that is. And again, that's this bearing. Just punch it in there. Oh, that didn't go very well. I kind of put it in there on an angle. You don't want to do that. There we go. So far, so good. Finish is really good on this project. Okay, so again, we got this oriented the way they want it to be oriented. This gear goes inside of here. Then this has to be screwed on here. Now here's where you use Loctite. Whenever you're putting metal with metal, you use Loctite. Okay, make sure you have the right Loctite. There are different kinds. They suggest blue Loctite. Okay, this is the Loctite that they sent in here is, I'm imagining it's blue. They don't call it Loctite because Loctite is a brand name. This is Thread Locker is what they're calling it, or Thread Lock. And they send it in this little tube. Okay, I prefer to use, this is Axial's Thread Lock. This would be Vanquish's Thread Lock. But I prefer to use Loctite Thread Lock, the blue. Okay. I just put a little bit here on the book. You do it however you want to. And then you dip the end of the thread into the, and again, the screw size. If you look on top where you're working from, the screw size is there in numbers, and then there's also a actual size, so you can lay the screw down on the book and it's the correct one. Okay, so make sure I put this in the correct way, orient everything. Okay, and put a little thread lock on there. right on the end. You don't have to go crazy with this stuff, okay? Just put it on the end of the screw and put it in. Okay, now these wrenches are different sizes. This is a 2.0. There's a 2.0, 1.5, 2.5, and I don't remember what the other one is. And you got to get the right one for the right job, for the job. And just go to put it in. In this case, there is a total of 6 of these screws. So I'm not going to bore you with me putting them in. So I'll fast forward through this process. Same thing for each screw, little Loctite, and away you go. Okay, now you don't have to over torque these things. Don't go crazy. Remember, you're working with small pieces. Just get them tight. The Loctite or thread lock, whichever you're using, will do the job. Okay, so now we are going to take this piece and set it inside the differential housing. And again, make sure you orient everything. Look at the way it's laid out in the picture. The picture should be, let's say a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, that's exactly what it is in this book. There are no words. It's pictures. Line everything up just like the picture shows. Check and make sure the gears turn good. Now, before I actually put this together, I'm going to place some grease, and they will provide you with grease. I use a thing called Udder Butter. Okay, this is waterproof. It's like marine grease. Okay, it'll probably be more expensive if you buy it from Cow RC, but I've had this jar of Udder Butter for 4 years. It lasts me forever. You can see I've used some of it, but this is what I use on my gears. Okay, now you really don't want to get this all over your hands. You don't have to. Just take a little screwdriver or something, dip a little bit of it off of here, and put it on the gears before you put it together. Now again, like I said, this is probably just good old marine grease, but it's waterproof, and in my opinion, it works pretty good. Okay, I like it. Don't overpack these gears. You can put too much grease in your differential and you can get binding. So just a little bit of dab will do you, as the commercial used to say, and probably most of you probably have no idea what I'm talking about. Used to be some hair gel. Say a little dab will do you. Keep your hair in line. Okay? You want to use enough, but not too much. Alright, press it together, and Now we have 4 screws here. And again, now we're going into plastic. Okay? Metal screws into plastic, you do not need Loctite. Okay, so now we'll find the 4 screws we need for this. And again, you can look at the diagram, tell you which screws you need. And we'll put this together. And these are 2.0s, not 1.5s. So get the old 2.0 wrench. And you'll feel a little resistance when you're going into plastic. That's good. It's supposed to be that way. You're kind of cutting the threads into the plastic with the screw. And here again, do not over tighten. If you strip one of these, you're not going to be happy with yourself. So just snug it up. They're not going to come out because you can feel the resistance of the plastic on the screw inside, and it will definitely stay. It's not going anywhere. So far, so good. This is a very, very good product. Vanquish makes good stuff, guys. If you want to, after you've built the standard version of a Vanquish kit, they have upgrades big time. You can get axles and you can get axle housings, and they're all name brand stuff. They have method wheels. They have trying to think of some of the other stuff that they have name brand. They're axles, Curry axles. They just look like the real thing. Okay, they're licensed. All right, we got a little dry spot in here somewhere. Right there, we got a little binding. Well, there we go. It just must have been something in the way. Okay, so now we have her greased up, put together. Pretty simple so far. And the last part of that is slam it in the axle housing. And again, it'll only go one way. But there we go, in the housing. And I understand that these housings are built out of some pretty good nylon, whatever, plastic. They got a good mix of whatever it is they made to build these axle housings, and they say that they're really sturdy, really strong. Alright, so now we find the screws for putting the differential together, and we have 4 of those. Again, no thread lock because we're going into plastic. Okay, now this is where I use this. If you're going to use one of these, people, you gotta be careful, okay? You can strip these screws out really easy, and I don't recommend it if you haven't done it before, okay? But if you have, and like I said, I have a way to adjust how much torque is put on the screws, and I got it set to the lowest possible denominator. the thing about these screws is they're very fine threaded. That's so that they'll hold well, but they're easy to strip. So you don't want to, if you use one of these, don't take it all the way down to where, if you haven't used them before, to where you think you're going to strip it. I get it down there to where it's really close to being completely tight, and then I'll pick up a wrench and hand tighten the rest of it. And yeah, this is going together really well. I mean, it's not overly difficult. Okay, now that I've got them close, I will hand tighten them so that I don't strip them. And again, you don't have to get crazy. They will hold. They're not going anywhere. They're not going to vibrate out. Not when they're in that plastic. That's nice. A nice setup. Okay, so the bearings for the rear, or for the housing, axle housing. Again, find the bearings that are right size. Plug them in at the end of the axle housing. And these are nice tight fits. They'll just slip right in. And good to go. Very good. And that's the end of that. Quite simple to this point. All right. Now, to put the knuckles on each one of these axles and the axle shafts, okay, will be the next part of the project. Again, they are in the bag A stuff. So we get the axle shafts. And the rest of the parts are in here. Wheel hubs and all that good stuff. But again, we have one large bearing which goes into, okay, the hubs. Hubs are on what they call a parts tree. It's parts tree, molded plastic. Like again, very good plastic. And actually, there's nothing wrong with plastic in areas that you're afraid you might break. Cheaper to fix, okay? They will give when they need to. If you have metal ones and you break them, it's going to cost you more, but you won't break them as often. Okay, now, the parts tree, you can go back and forth, it'll come off. But the problem is, it may leave a little bit of excess plastic on here. So what you need is a good set of clippers or something just to clip it off and make it so it's not hanging up. Or you can clip it off the very first time off the tree and then you won't have to trim it. I didn't do a very good job of that. Okay. Alrighty then. Alright. Now we got the two knuckles. And each one of them has different parts, but let's start with the short axle. This rear axle has an offset differential. Take the knuckle and then again follow the instructions. Bearing, another bearing, Then the axle goes through, and then I want to make sure we got the right one. Yeah, okay. Then you have a pin here for the hub. It goes through a little hole here. Then the hex hub goes on over that pin, and then you have a little locking device or set screw that goes into this, and I gotta find my tiny one. .5, and I lost a little. Yeah, it's like, it's kind of not tricky, but you just got to get that lined up, get this lined up, and then get the set screw in, and well, bam, you're all set. Nice. Okay, so orient the axle housing, place the axle in, orient the hub the correct way with the picture. Like, again, a picture is 1,000 words, worth 1,000 words, and then put the screws in for the hubs. Now these have to swivel, duh, but if you're not thinking about it and you tighten them up too tight, they won't move. Now you maybe you want them to move a little less than. Whoa, I'm having a little trouble lining this up. Darn it. And you don't want to get these crooked, guys. Don't cross thread this stuff crooked. If it doesn't feel like it's going, take your time and make sure it's straight before you put the screw in. You get it crooked, you'll be mad because you're cutting the threads in the plastic. And you don't want to cut them wrong because you can't recut them. And I'm having trouble getting this started. And I don't know why. It's just me. Let's see if I can line the bottom one up first. There we go. Okay, so yeah, got it started, and we'll tighten her up. Like I said, you don't want to go crazy here. They may not allow you to go crazy because I see they don't have threads all the way up to the top so they stop before it will tighten up too much and not work. Alright, and that's the way you put the hubs on. Alright, I won't bore you with the other side. I'll put it on and we'll come back. Okay guys, and just like that we have the front axle put together. Alright, front axle ready to go. Okay, another little handy thing to have is you get yourself some paper towels, clean up any leftover whatever, and turn a page. And we'll do the rear axle. So the open bag B. Okay, so we find bag B. I have 2 screws left over, and I want to make sure that I didn't forget to put something in. I'm sure they come in somewhere later. Okay, so bag B. The rear axle. There's bag B1, and I just had bag B in my hand. What did I do with it? We don't need bag A anymore. I just had those things in my hand. And where did I stick it? How do you lose a whole bag of stuff in one place? Bag B1. Oh, bag B1. Bag B. Bag B1. They're both in bag B. Alright. Bag B. We'll open bag B. Axle housing. Gears, screws, axles, and we don't have hubs per se, knuckles per se, we have hubs. Okay. Small parts, again, if you are just watching this, just building a few little things. Got this little parts tray that I like to put stuff in. Yeah, I just throw stuff on the floor behind me. Sweep it up after I get done. Okay, so this is going to be pretty much the same as the front, or rear I should say. Front. Forget which one we're doing. Except that you don't have the knuckles part. Okay. And these axles are the same length, because this is a center differential rather than a offset. So that wasn't too smart. Good. Alrighty, so the first part of it is pretty much the same as the front axle was. So I'm just going to kind of buzz through that till we get to where something's different. Alrighty. Again, when we're using metal here, so we put a little Loctite on them. While I'm doing this, if you want to get some more tools of the trade as you're going along, I'll put a list in the description of where you can get these on Amazon. I get all my stuff from Amazon. I mean, I might pay a little more than the Chinese shipping that's free, you know, free and all that good stuff, but you can get it really quick from Amazon. And, you know, like the tools that I got here, you know, other people sell this stuff. Don't get me wrong. Much more expensive if you really get into this big time. But I've been doing it for 4 or 5 years. And this is the second set of wrenches that I've bought. And because I wore out the first ones. But I didn't pay that much for them. And they're good. They get the job done. Like I said, I built plenty of kits, rebuilt, upgrades, everything with the ones I had before, and they were actually cheaper than this set. But this is a pretty good set. Alright, got that part done. We want to, again, get the bearings into the differential height, into each part. I'm going to go through this a little faster. If you need some help, look at the when I did the first one, the front axle. It's pretty much exactly the same. I've done that with that bearing twice. You got to get it straight. You want to punch it in there. Okay, again, caution you when you use a powered screwdriver to be careful. And it will save you some time. You just want to be careful to don't over tighten, because you'll be mad at yourself if you got to buy a new housing or whatever right out the bat because you got over anxious and over torqued. Okay, and then of course this fits into the housing. Again, it'll only go one way. And at this point, so far up to this point, I like this kit. And I like this kit for people who haven't done one before. This is not a hard kit to build to this point. These axles are pretty simple to put together. And everything's fit. The fit and finish is really good. Okay, once I have everything in, get a little hand tightening. Make sure everything is snugged up. And right there, I forgot to do one. All right. That's the most of the rear axle. We have a oil fill cap, which is red, which goes into here, and they give you a tool to put this fill cap on. Thank you, Vanquish. Very cool. That looks nice. Good deal. Okay. Now, the hubs on this one are not movable, so put a bearing in each end of the housing. The hub has 2 screws that hold them on. Here's where you can strip. A lot of people strip these. Probably would help to put the axle in, huh? Yeah, it would. I don't know if I really had to do that then or not. No, not really. Okay, so yeah, fell right back out. So these don't actually hold the axles in. Or do they? Am I doing something wrong? Okay. This goes in. This goes on. Okay, I'm doing it right. So, picture explains it. Trust the picture. I mean, sometimes you'll find mistakes that'll confound you for big time, but this, so far, this one, I do believe that this is going to be a good starter. Okay, and we have a little washer. Then we have a pin. And my magnetic thing is holding my pin. Pin goes in. Then the hub goes on. I'm missing something here. Okay, I was having a little brain deal. I didn't follow the instructions, and I was putting the axle in last when you should put the axle in first. I was thinking, what's going to hold this axle in place? But what's going to hold that axle in place is the bearing. Holy smokes, Doug. Okay. So, pay attention. Again, the pictures are well done. I just didn't follow. And maybe I should, I can partially justify what sometimes I think I know what I'm doing because I've made these, built others, but I don't. I don't know any more about this Vanquish than I did the others when I first started. And they all can be different. So just pay attention to the instructions. Follow the instructions. And you'll be fine. I just put this cap on, or this hub, or whatever you want to call it, and the axle wasn't standing, and I was going, what the hell was going on? You know, it's just me. It didn't look right. I knew that. Anyway. Okay, so now that I've got my head out of my butt, we can do this again. I will show you exactly what you do on the other side. Okay. First of all, you don't put this on first. That's for sure. You put the axle in first. It only makes sense. And you don't put the bearing on. You put the axle in the housing. You put the bearing on. Then you put the hubcap, the cap, I mean, I'd show it right in the picture, in the order they go in. Then you take the pin, put that on. Oops. The little hex nut. Line it up on a pin. Get your little set screw. And these set screws are going metal in metal. And I didn't say it on the other ones that I should have. Put a little dab of whatchamacallit on them. Loctite. In the instructions it doesn't say to, but if they're metal and metal, always put a little Loctite or thread lock, depending on what you're using, on the bolts. Okay, and we got the rear axle. Alright, any questions? We have front axle, rear axle, done. And that thing where I say, are there any questions? I was a teacher for 15 years. And after you get done saying something to the kids, you got to say, are there any questions? Well, if I ask you any questions, it's kind of hard for you to ask them. But if you do have questions, you can put them in the comments and I'll get back with you on the answers. Okay. So that's it for today. Have a good one. See you next time.